On today's show, the Houston Rockets regular season awards chances for the 25-26 campaign. Why Alperen Sengun might have better odds than Kevin Durant to win the MVP award. Thompson versus Victor Wembanyama for DPOY. Tari, Eason, sixth man of the year possibly. And Ime Udoka's coach of the year odds and more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Fridays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform if you're choosing, and then like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. On today's show, we're going to be getting into the odds, the numbers, the lines, if you will, for all the regular season individual awards and accolades that the Rockets might be in the running for this year. We'll get into some of the reasoning and the context behind it, like why Alperen Sengun might actually have a better shot than Kevin Durant to win the MVP award this season. Get into a lot of the logistics and stuff behind all of those things. First, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Head on over to FanDuel.com to check them out. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. Shout out to my guy, Nick, from Shoku Ramen, one of our everydayers. It was great talking to you, man. Thanks for introducing yourself. Always good to talk basketball with diehard Rockets fans out there. All right, let's go ahead and start this thing off with the MVP line here. And this is the one award that we're going to talk about that I'll say on the surface, I really don't think the Rockets are going to walk away with an MVP this season. A lot would have to break really, really, really well for Houston to have an MVP this year. They would have to have both an absurd amount of team success. I'm talking like top 2 seed in the West, and not just top 2 seed like they were a top 2 seed this past season. I'm talking like top 2 seed with like 60 plus wins. Like, you're going to have to be a dominant team, great team success. And you need to have the individual level of success behind whichever candidate you're trying to champion for the MVP award, be it Kevin Durant or Alperen Sengun. Now, here's the thing and this is why I led with this, and this is why, and I'm not KD fans, I'm not trying to piss y'all off already. Like, just chill for a second. Hear me out. I think that the MVP award is an award that's one, it's so narrative based that I really don't think anybody on this Rockets team has a chance to get it this year. I will say KD, because historically he's been an MVP and he's already an established superstar, a top 10 player in the association, those things. He does have those kind of angles working for him to where if he came out and had a season where he's putting up, 20, 28 points on insane efficiency, and if maybe his rebounding and his assist numbers go up a little bit as well, kind of by necessity because of the dynamic playing on a new team. Maybe he's more inspired playing defense under Ime Udoka. Maybe the playmaking takes a little bit of an uptick, I guess, without Fred VanVleet out there. There's different things to look at it from that perspective. But on the other hand, when you have a guy like Alperen Sengun, who is on the upward trajectory of his career, is cementing himself and establishing himself as one of the premier up-and-coming young stars of the league, fresh off a Eurobasket run where he was unbelievably dominant, fresh off his first All-Star bid last season, should be an All-Star again this season, almost guaranteed will be an All-Star again this season, more on the All-Star selections in a little bit. But I just think that if things were to break right for this Rockets team and for them to be, potentially a top 2 seed in the West again, to have like the team success, 55 plus wins, that kind of thing, a lot of it is going to hinge, as particularly on Alperen Sengun and his production. And just from a sheer counting stats perspective, if KD's putting up 26 or 27, 28 a game on ridiculous efficiency, awesome. But Sengun has a very legitimate chance here to put up 22, 23, 24 a game on what is hopefully back to being good efficiency, right? But also grabbing down 10, 11, 12 rebounds a night, and then potentially racking up anywhere north of 8 assists per game because the offense is going to be run through him so much. And if you're talking about a guy putting up, we'll just say 23, 10, and 8, with as long as the shooting efficiency is there, and if the team success is there, then I could see a world where voters look between KD and Sengun, and they deem that Sengun is more worthy of the MVP votes between the two of them. That's not to say that KD, isn't doing what he's supposed to do, fulfilling his role, being the lead scorer, being the hyper efficient number one option, all those things. But when you look at like the collective body of work, it might sway voters when you start looking at like the counting stats and some of the other stuff. And then you get into the defensive side of things and like anchoring, potentially a top 5 defense out of that 5 spot, like Alperen Sengun has done, the past couple of years, being the anchor of the Rockets defense, all these things. So it's not a slight to KD whatsoever. And as far as the betting lines are concerned, KD is plus 7,000 to win the MVP award this season. Alperen Sengun is plus 30,000. So a considerable gulf there. I'm just providing the context here in that I do think that from a counting stats perspective, Sengun would have a legitimate argument. But I also kind of feel like the MVP award is so narrative based at the end of the day that it's almost like you have to have had a season prior where you were playing at an MVP level before you're able to actually win the award. It's almost like you have to come into the season as one of the names that makes sense to be an MVP, to have a legitimate shot. It's like you come into the NBA and every year there's 3, 4, maybe 5 guys that have a legitimate chance to win MVP, even if there are other names out there that could legitimately have MVP caliber seasons. Like on the flip side of things in the Eastern Conference, I think Cade Cunningham has a legitimate shot to have put together an MVP caliber season this year. He might go out there and do like 25 and 8 and 8 for an entire season on good efficiency. And if the Pistons finish as like a top 4 seed, that is absolutely an MVP caliber player. But I just don't know if he'll actually win the award. It's so narrative based. The MVP award is the one that like upsets me the most of all the awards that are available and out there. It's intentionally ambiguous. Team success versus individual success. It's all whatever the voters want to make it on a year by year basis. But at least that's where we started off here on this one. KD plus 7,000, Alperen Sengun plus 30,000. And yeah, I'm in Thompson way there in third place at plus 50,000 for this year's MVP award. That's the one award that I feel like is unlikely for the Rockets to achieve this season. Wanted to talk about it, wanted to lead with it though. Now we're going to get into the other awards that it does feel like they have a very legitimate shot to compete for this year. Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, a lot of candidates for that one, as well as Sixth Man of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with their brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's keep navigating the awards discussion here. Also, I guess I could have mentioned it when we were actually talking about the MVP award a second ago, but SGA is the favorite to repeat as the MVP at plus 160. Jokic is plus 300. Luka sitting at plus 400. Giannis at plus 1,200, right alongside Victor Wembanyama at plus 1,200. That's your top 5 right there. And then you have Ant at 2,500, Cade at 5,000, and then Kevin Durant at plus 7,000. So those are kind of, Katie's not too far off from the top of that discussion. And again, from a narrative perspective, maybe if the Rockets have enough of a narrative behind them, and maybe if those other teams, Thunder, Nuggets, Lakers struggle a little bit, then maybe there is enough of a built-in, baked-in, like Kevin Durant, the last leg of his career, coming to usher in a new age of Houston Rockets basketball with their young stars, Alperen Sengun and Amin Thompson. I don't know. Maybe there's enough there for KD to win MVP. I would love to be proven wrong. KD MVP in a Rockets jersey would be sweet. So that'd be awesome. All right, let's go ahead and navigate here and move on to the next award that it feels like the Rockets have a very legitimate chance to potentially claim. And that is the Defensive Player of the Year award, where right now, Amin Thompson is in a tie for third place favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year award. He's plus 1,600 with Anthony Davis. Chet Holmgren is ahead of both of them at plus 650. Okay. And then Victor Wembanyama is the overwhelming favorite at minus odds, minus 185 to win DPOY. Now, this is going to be the tough one because the Defensive Player of the Year award is basically going to be how like the MVP award was for years when LeBron James was at his like at his first peak, basically, back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, because every year LeBron played like in MVP, and every year you could have given him the MVP award and nobody would have been mad about it. It could have just been renamed the LeBron James award every single season. And that's kind of what's probably going to happen here with the DPOY award is Wemby is going to have his name etched into the trophy pretty much every season. And he's going to win, 2, maybe 3 in a row. And then voters are going to get voter fatigue. And then they're going to be like, all right, we should probably give it to somebody else who's actually another one of the best defenders in the NBA. Cause we can't just give it to Wemby every year. Kind of how same situation with Rudy Gobert, but to a maybe lesser degree, right? Is like every year Rudy Gobert is like a legitimate candidate for the DPOY award. And he's racked up 4 of them now. So I just think we're going to see a stretch where Wemby is going to be like clean sweeping the DPOY ballots from here on out, unfortunately. However, I will say there is a chance. There is a possibility here. And again, some of this is baked into the team success, right? If the Spurs are not a good team defense, right? Like I think I was looking the other day, last year they finished like bottom 10th in the NBA as a defensive team. Granted, Wemby missed a chunk of the last year, right? And he was a lock for DPOY until he missed the final quarter or 1/3 of the season, whatever it was. But to me, it just feels wrong to give DPOY to a player that isn't translating to that, where it's not translating to overall team success, right? Like if you are one of the worst 5-10 teams in the NBA, like it's the same argument for why you don't give, a player who's putting up empty stats on a bad team, why they're not in the running for the MVP award, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so I feel like if the Spurs don't have like a modicum of success this season, then there is a chance that the DPOY award, doesn't go to Wemby and instead has a chance to go to one of Chet Holmgren or Amin Thompson. Amin Thompson just voted, by the on the annual NBA GM survey, right? Voted the most versatile defender in the NBA, as well as one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. So he has the recognition there. His peers understand what he's capable of. And I do think the voters understand what he's capable of. And I think at this stage in Amin Thompson's career, he's likely going to be a year in, year out DPOY candidate. It's kind of Wemby's award to lose on a season by season basis. So I do think Amin has a shot to win it this year, but it's going to be more based on how well or how poorly the Spurs do, as opposed to anything relating to like how well the Rockets do or how well Amin Thompson does on an individual basis, unfortunately. But Amin at plus 1,600, not terrible odds to win the DPOY award there. The next one that has Amin leading the pack is the Most Improved Player of the Year award. And I've bemoaned this before, and I will do so once again. Let me get on my soapbox here. I don't think top draft picks should be eligible for the Most Improved Player of the Year award. Like, I just don't. I feel like if you are at a minimum, like just don't include like lottery picks. Like, because like if you're a lottery pick, if you're drafted top 10, top 5 in the NBA draft, there's an expectation that you're supposed to become a star. There's an expectation that you're that's why you were a top draft pick to begin with. I just think I think most improved player of the year award belongs to players who come into the NBA as projected role players, or maybe they start off really small and then they blossom onto the scene and become six man of the year candidates, or a high level starting caliber player, or an all-star, or things like that. And so I dislike seeing Amin's name leading the pack here. I'm not, if he wins it, cool. It's an award for the Rockets. Awesome. I'm not going to complain about it, but it just feels a little disingenuous to me. And I've always felt this way about this award in particular. I feel like there needs to be a set of parameters somehow put on it to disclude maybe top draft picks from being part of that conversation. Because what you get drafted number 2 overall, and maybe you struggle your first couple seasons in the NBA, people start labeling you a bust or whatever, and then suddenly you have that turnaround, or it starts to click in year 3 or 4, and then suddenly you win most improved player. It's no, I mean, yeah, technically you improved, but you were also supposed to be better out the gate than you actually were. I don't know. Let me get off my soapbox here. On that same note, though, the Rockets have a bunch of names on the most improved player of the year award ballot. Amin Thompson plus 950, Reed plus 3,000, Jabari and Sengun both plus 6,000, and Tari Eason plus 8,000. So it's basically young player puts up big stats, becomes most improved player of the year. So the Rockets do have a lot of chances, a lot of bites at the apple on this one. And Reed honestly has a pretty good shot too, when you think about it, because he's being thrust into such a bigger role all of a sudden that there's a distinct possibility that if he's putting up, 10 to 12 points on good shooting efficiency, and, putting in a handful of assists every game, and starting, 50 plus, 60 plus games for the Rockets this season, if he is indeed the 5th starter that Ime Udoka goes with on opening night and sticks with it for a majority of the season, then yeah, I could see a world where Reed Shepherd is easily a most improved player of the year candidate. For Amin, though, it does bleed into the idea that Amin is going to take a significant jump forward. But is that significant jump enough to, is there enough left to grab, right? Because he already did 16, 9, and 5 as a starter in 41, 42 games last season. So how much of a jump does he need past that to be able to truly be considered the most improved player of the year award to kind of cover that ground? Or is there another player on the MIP list that has, I guess, more space to grow? Or, I think some of the other names, Denny Avdia for the Blazers, he's a possibility. Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin both have a really strong chance with the absence of Tyrese Halliburton in Indiana. Matas Buzelis, again, another top draft pick, plus 1,600 there. So Amin's the favorite by a decent margin. I disagree with it. But coming up, we will talk about the Rockets' individual chances to have multiple all-stars on this year's team, as well as rounding out our awards ballots with 6th man of the year, clutch player of the year, and coach of the year odds. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss out on. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, $5 only, and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. FanDuel is great because it gives you so many different ways to play. You can build out different parlays. You can try player props. You can even follow the live betting lines during the games. But hey, maybe you're not into all that. You want to keep it simple. That's fine. Go take a look at the outright betting favorites for the Super Bowl this season. Right now, the Bills sitting at plus 500, the Chiefs at plus 700. They've jumped up the lines. Packers at plus 750, the Lions plus 900, and the Eagles rounding out the top 5 at plus 1,000. So for all those odds and so much more, visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Look, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or different investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table, and nobody wants to do that. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your smartphone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. They do all the heavy lifting. You can link your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever needing to touch a spreadsheet. Monarch is great because my favorite feature, honestly, is the categorization, because you can organize it based on like monthly purchases, like subscriptions and stuff. Because there's no worse feeling than like seeing a notification pop up, 15, 25, 30 bucks, whatever, for a service that you're not even using. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'll go home and I'll cancel it later or whatever. You're busy in the moment. And then you forget about it. And then it dings you next month. And you're like, oh, so just rinse, wash, repeat. It's kind of embarrassing how often that's happened to me. But organize your monthly subscription fees, all that stuff, and then don't pay for things that you're not actually using. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right. Let's get into this all-star discussion here, because I think that on the surface, the Rockets are all but guaranteed to have 2 all-stars this season, like almost point blank. Kevin Durant, health pending, is almost guaranteed to be an all-star, right? That's going to happen. And here's the new wrinkle with the new format of the all-star team, the USA versus world format tournament stuff that they're doing. We talked about it, when they released the news over the summer. But basically, you're going to have, of the 24 available all-star slots, 8 of them are going to be reserved for, essentially, international all-stars. And because of that, Alperen Sengun is a shoo-in to be an all-star again this season. And it's not going to be even a remote question. Like, Sengun is going to be one of the 8 best international players in the NBA. He is going to therefore be an all-star. So you've got Kevin Durant tapped for one of those 16 slots on the USA side of things. Then you've got Alperen Sengun, who's basically guaranteed one of those international spots because he's already one of the best international players in the entire association. Then begs the question is, can Amin Thompson elevate his play enough this season to force himself into the all-star conversation? And will the Rockets be able to get away with not 1, not 2, but 3 all-stars this season? I think it's a distinct possibility. It is, I won't even say unlikely, because if Amin Thompson comes out and averages like 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 or 6 assists, that's an all-star in and of itself. Like, that's an all-star stat line. And there's a legitimate chance. He's not that far off from doing. He already did 16, 9, and 5. Like, that's a couple more buckets. That's 1 more rebound and a couple more assists per game. And he's putting up a ridiculous 20, 10, and 6, 20, 10, and 7 stat line. Like, I really think there's a distinct possibility here for the Rockets to have 3 all-stars in one season. And I don't actually know if that's happened in Rockets history. I should have looked up this factoid before hitting record. I'm trying to all right, I need one of you old heads to help me out here. Let me know in the YouTube comments, because I'm not gonna try and live look it up in the show. That always ends terribly for me. But maybe the year with Hakeem and Clyde and Barkley, maybe. I really don't know. Because there could have been a year, right? What was it? Yao and T-Mac and Artest would have been the other one, but T-Mac was hurt that year. Harden and CP3 never had a third all-star. Harden and Russ didn't have a third all-star. Harden and Dwight never had a third all-star. I don't know. I'm trying to go through the different eras of Rockets basketball, and I really can't land on. I mean, Yao and Steve Francis didn't have a third all-star, but they were a duo together. So I really don't know off the dome if the Rockets have ever had 3 all-star selections in one season, but that'd be a cool milestone if it happened. So one of you old heads, let me know. Go all the way back, because I'm not digging past the 90s. So figure it out for me. Let me know in the YouTube comments. But let's move on past that. We got a few more awards to take a look at here. 6th man of the year, the one that Josh Okogie is championing Tari Eason for. Tari is one of the, maybe not overwhelming favorites for 6th man of the year, but he's not too far off from the top dogs. DeAndre Hunter is the favorite. DeAndre Hunter and Naz Reid both sitting at plus 1,000. And then Josh Hart plus 1,100. Ty Jerome plus 1,400. And then you have Jordan Clarkson, Anthony Simons, both at plus 1,500. Oh, I apologize. John Collins also at plus 1,500. So three-way tie there at plus 1,500. And then Tari Eason plus 1,600 before it jumps all the way to plus 2,200 for Malik Monk in Sacramento. So Tari Eason with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th best odds to win Sixth Man of the Year this season. And frankly, we still aren't 100% on what Tari's role is going to be. Maybe there's a possibility he still starts. And if Tari winds up being the de facto starter for a good chunk of the season, then it automatically removes him from the Sixth Man of the Year discussion. But if Tari is coming off the bench, right, and if he is serious about having a bigger role, and if Ime does try to give him the bigger role that he wants, then there's absolutely a world where Tari Eason could be in that Sixth Man of the Year conversation and should be, right? Like, I know Tari was kind of pissed about the whole not being a top 100 player kind of thing. Tari Eason's impact is undeniable. And ultimately, I think what it's going to come down to is how much more do we see out of Tari offensively this season? Because if he's putting up, about 10 points, about, a handful of rebounds, whatever off the bench, like the counting stats kind of have to be there to be able to back up his argument as Sixth Man of the Year. And a lot of the names that are at the top of the Sixth Man of the Year bracket, right, or standings, whatever, these are guys that basically play starters levels minutes. It's just they come off the bench, and that's the only difference, right? Like Naz Reid basically plays starter level minutes, right? DeAndre Hunter plays starter level minutes. Josh Hart will be playing starter level minutes in New York. Like, these are all guys that play 30 or 30 plus minutes a night. The only difference is they just check in off the bench instead of being with the starting squad. So if Tari Eason gets utilized in that capacity this season, then I could very easily see him jumping up that leaderboard and becoming more of a favorite to win the award. But if he's still kind of stuck in that 20 to 25 minutes a night role, it's going to be a lot harder for him to truly walk away with the award in his hands. This is another one that I feel like the Rockets have a very legitimate shot to win. Maybe the one that I feel the most strongly about here, even though they're not technically the overwhelming favorites in this category. And that's Clutch Player of the Year. Jalen Brunson's the favorite at plus 850. Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant are in a two-way tie for second place at plus 900. Based on everything we knew about this Rockets team from last year and how many clutch games that they were in and how many clutch losses that they had because they just legitimately didn't have a go-to bucket getter late in games, if you just do just a repeat this season where the Rockets they can have some similar offensive woes, they get late in games, whatever. Honestly, if the Rockets offense just takes a leap forward, then maybe they just don't even have these super close, like down to the wire, frustrating games to begin with, which would be like a whole different kind of breath of fresh air. And unfortunately, it would remove you from this conversation of Clutch Player of the Year. But by the same token, makes you a better overall team if you're just pummeling teams to death and you don't have to worry about these down to the wire, nitty gritty, last minute, game saving type buckets and plays. Although they are fun and exciting. It does kind of feel like the Rockets are built to be another one of those grinded out defense first kind of teams, a lot of low scoring affairs, 98, 95 kind of final score type deals. And if that's the case, and KD is your go-to closer, he's your go-to scorer in the clutch, I don't see how KD isn't actually the overwhelming favorite to be the Clutch Player of the Year at this point. Given everything we know about this Rockets team from last season, given what we know KD is capable of late in games as a clutch performer, it really feels like this is the award that I feel like the Rockets should have kind of just wrapped up. And again, it's going to be just dependent on like maybe the Rockets are actually they take such a step forward offensively that they're not like down in the gutters at the end of games anymore. And they're actually able to like put away opponents and come away with some like very like decisive, 10 point, 15 point, 20 plus point victories and just blowing teams out left and right, as opposed to, going down to the wire and stuff. So we'll see how that one plays out. But I do feel like KD Clutch Player of the Year is a very, very strong possibility this season. Last individual award here to talk about, and this is going to be Coach of the Year. And unfortunately, I feel like Ime Udoka's ship has sailed with Coach of the Year. Like, it sucks. His odds, he's got the 5th best odds at plus 1,300. So Jamal Mosley with the Orlando Magic plus 600, Quinn Snyder plus 650 with the Hawks, JB Bickerstaff plus 1,000 with the Pistons, and Mike Brown plus 1,000 with the Knicks. So I guess technically 4th best odds because there's a tie for 3rd place. But the Coach of the Year award is such a tough award to hand out because it's basically which team improves the most from the previous season. And so, like, here's the thing. You have the Magic, who had a down year, and they have a chance to really, like, swing up to the top of the standings and suddenly be like a top 3, top 4 team in the East. So that's the Magic done. Hawks, same thing. Middle of the pack team, made some good offseason moves, and suddenly they have a chance to be a top 4 seed in a wide open Eastern Conference. The Pistons have a chance to make a jump forward and make a considerable push, going from like the 6th seed into a top 4 seed territory. And then Mike Brown is the shiny new thing in New York. So if he like revamps the Knicks offense, or if the Knicks look like a stronger team this year, or if they're like decidedly the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference over the Cavs, then like maybe that's enough to go for Mike Brown. For Ime, the Rockets, Ime already had 2 different seasons back to back that could have been Coach of the Year type seasons, right? Where he took the Rockets from a laughingstock to a legitimate 500 team. And if the Rockets had made the play-in tournament that year and like won a game or two and made it to the playoffs, I feel like he would have won Coach of the Year that season. Like he was so close to being able to have the votes to get it. And then even last year, right, as the Rockets skyrocketed up the standings and became the number 2 seed in a bloodbath of Western Conference, like it was just, it wasn't his year to win it, unfortunately, given, you know, how good some of the other teams were. And who was it last year? It was am I blanking? Cavs coach, Kenny Atkinson. There we go. Right. Kenny Atkinson won it last year, I think. I should be able to look this up. I should have this. Yeah, Kenny Atkinson. There we go. Sorry. Wanted to guarantee that. But, you know, it's one of those where that one is very narrative based. And I just don't know, unless the Rockets somehow finishes the 1 seed in the Western Conference with like 60 plus wins, I just don't see a world where Ime is going to have enough of the narrative boost that some of these other guys are going to have on their resumes to be able to walk away Coach of the Year. The odds are still solid for Ime, but it's going to take an immense amount of team success for the Rockets, and it's going to take some individual failures or some slippage from those other teams for Ime to basically be able to beat them out. Because like the Rockets can't finish as like a worse team this year. They can't finish as like a 3rd seed or a 4 seed and Ime be considered Coach of the Year. That wouldn't happen. So like he's kind of got the deck stacked against him at this point, and he likely missed out on his best chance at Coach of the Year in both of these prior 2 seasons, when he kind of was that shiny new toy in Houston and he took the Rockets on the upswing, all that stuff. So that does it for the individual awards that we've navigated through. Not going to talk about like finals MVP or conference MVP or any of that stuff. But I am curious your thoughts. What awards do you think the Rockets legitimately could win this season? Which ones do you want to see them win? What one individual award would you like to see the Rockets walk away with most? I'm not talking championship, so like get out of here. Individual player awards or coach awards, like which one do you feel like would be most exciting, most deserving for somebody on the roster? Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.